Ladies and gents, I genuinely believe that being rich is a state of mind. In fact, I don't even really like the word rich. I never strive to be rich, I always strive to be wealthy. That said, usually people with a rich state of mind usually end up with a rich state of life. And there are undeniable patterns that you'll see if you look at any rich person. And those are some of the main things that I focused on as I went from being a 17-year-old high school dropout.
I'm a 17-year-old high school dropout.
To making my first million at 18 and repeating it every single year after and growing it. So ladies and gentlemen, for those of you guys that don't know who I am, my name is Iman Gadji. I run an advertising agency called IG Media. We work with some really awesome info product and e-commerce clients, and I've been running that business for coming up to 4 years at this point. Apart from that, I actually run the world's largest education company for agency owners specifically. I have students who are literally looking to get their first $2,000 client, and I've got some students who are literally making over $150,000 a month plus from their agency. To be honest, at greatagency.com, we're kind of the experts that the experts go to learn from, because I'm still in the trenches running my agency every single day. Now I take a large portion of profits from my education company and actually use that to build schools in Nepal. From the schools that we built last year, there's over 1,000 kids that actually get to wake up and get a proper education, which is incredible. And finally, I also run a e-commerce clothing line called Gadji, all bespoke, all done in-house, none of that print-on-demand BS. So over the past 4 years, building my businesses to the point where now they're making over multi-7 figures a year, I've learned a thing or two and studying what rich people do. And in fact, at my agency, just getting to find out a lot more about what my clients do. And in fact, at my agency, especially kind of when I was first starting off, when I was 16, 17, actually speaking to my clients and finding out how they managed to build their businesses, I've learned a lot, and I can really distill it down to 4 main things that rich people do that poor people simply don't. So the first thing is that rich people get paid on results, not time. I'd say this is the biggest thing that poor people do that rich don't. You know, poor will get paid on time, rich will get paid on results. And you need to understand that in life, we're all going through different vehicles, whether that be career vehicles, lifestyle paths, philosophies or religions that we live by. And that's awesome, but you need to understand when it comes to your career, that's one of those things where more effort does not mean more financial compensation. You know, a lot of self-help junkies and gurus want to tell their audience, you're not rich because you don't work hard enough. I don't agree with that at all, because all you need to look at is construction workers. Or for example, my mom, she actually used to work at the NHS, which is the free government health service in the UK. Then she also worked in retail. And my mom would literally go to work for 9 hours, and then there's a commute an hour back and forth. And like, you can see on a person's face when they are just at a point of pure exhaustion, and every single day she would just come back at a point of pure exhaustion. I can honestly say that she has worked way harder than me in terms of just how draining and tiring and numbing her workday was. But the main issue was that she was in a financial vehicle that did not pay her based on results. She could have been the best employee, she could have gone above and beyond, but realistically, what's gonna happen? Maybe she might have gotten a tiny promotion, but the extra effort does not equate to extra financial compensation. So if you want something where there's a much more direct and more conclusive correlation between the amount of effort you put in and the financial compensation that you get from it, starting a business is the best place to be. So my agency that I started when I was 16 years old was the way that I managed to get compensated based on results, or the results that I was getting from my clients. It was the thing that enabled me to retire my mom at the age of 19. It's the thing that allows me the lifestyle that I have at present moment. But I also understand that not everyone needs to start a business. You can just look at roles where maybe you're working in an organization, but once again, you are getting compensated fairly to the results that you bring. So for example, sales positions. If you join an organization that has a good sales commission and a good sales structure, that is a very good, clear path for you to be making 5 figures, maybe even multi-5 figures a month in commissions. And to be honest, even if you're not working in that sort of structure, one great thing that you can do is just make sure that you join a company where they will compensate you fairly as you start to bring more value to the company. You know, you've got kind of your old age stale organizations where it's going to be very hard for you to climb up the corporate ladder. But if you come to a startup, for example, my business is a startup, especially my education company, the way that it's run. But at any of my businesses, we have a very lean, a very tight-knit startup culture. And between all 7 of my team members, that permeates. And someone is much likely to get very substantial pay raises year on year on year at an organization like mine that has that startup mentality, but that still also has good cash flows than, for example, one of your standard, more corporate businesses. So even if you're just working in a job, try to find an organization where they will compensate you based on results, not the amount of time you're putting in. So the next thing that rich people do that poor people don't is if we can't buy something 10 times in cash, then we just don't buy it. Guys, please do not go broke trying to look rich. Plus, you need to understand that most people are so self-absorbed and so self-conscious as to the way that they look or the way that they come across that they don't have any time to care about what shoes you have or what car you drive or what watch you have. You know, and maybe this comes from me living in Chelsea and London. You know, living in London and then especially in Chelsea, you know, it's very European, and I think the European way is a lot more under the radar. To be honest, London is a very wealthy city, and London, compared to, say, for example, a city like LA, in LA, for the most part, everyone looks more rich than they actually are, whereas in London, for the most part, everyone is a lot more richer than they look. You know, to give you an example, I might be at a restaurant with my Patek Philippe Nautilus, you know, my 5711, or I might be there with my rose gold Royal Oak, and you know, I might be thinking I'm the shit. I've got, you know, $50,000 to $70,000 on my wrist, and then there's gonna be someone on another table who's got a Nautilus that looks exactly like mine, except his is the 40th anniversary Nautilus, his is white gold, and his is around 300,000 market value. Mine is only around 70,000. But to a person who doesn't know about watches, you would never be able to tell the difference. So I think for me, maybe it's just the fact that that in London, you're never gonna win the who has a bigger dick game, because whatever watch you have, someone will have a more expensive one. In Chelsea and London, if your car costs 300,000, get in line. You know, that's pretty common. And if your car costs 500,000, then you just know that there's gonna be someone who pulls up to the restaurant in an original Mercedes SLS Gullwing, and that car costs, you know, 1.5, 2 million. So once you realize that there's no point in trying to play that game, because the game is rigged, because you'll never win. You know, no matter how much money you make, you're not gonna win that game. And even if you do, who cares? So, you know, when it comes to just dress the way that you want to dress, I don't really wear any designer. You know, I do like to get some of my pieces from Loro Piana or Zegna or Sandro, the Couples. Those are some of my favorite spots. But a lot of my stuff I get from Uniqlo, and I just get tailored. Or Zara, I get a lot of jeans and trousers from Zara. Rag and Bone is one of my favorites. So on any given day, I might be wearing a $1,500 turtleneck or a $15 turtleneck. It doesn't really matter. That's also the beautiful thing about when you don't really wear any brands. You know, you don't wear your Gucci's, your Balenciagas, your anything like that. Because there's no label, it genuinely could be super expensive or super cheap. And the way that you dress it up, you know, you're kind of flying under the radar. And I just think it's better that way. And once again, when it comes to accessories and this and that, for example, watches, I'm super into horology. Just buy whatever it is that you want. You know, I have a very, very big watch collection worth $300,000-$400,000, but those are investments to me. I've actually made money on my watch collection. And when it comes to, say, something like a car, in London, rather than buying a 458, I want to get a Renault Twizy. You know, on that car, the doors are actually optional. So the reason I'm saying all this stuff is it brings it back to the point of, like, if you can't buy it 10 times in cash, then you just can't afford it. If you can't buy that watch you want to buy 10 times over in cash, you can't afford it. If you can't buy that car 10 times over in cash, you cannot afford it. And you need to understand that. And I think truly rich people who are going to stay rich do understand that and don't get sucked into the game of who has a bigger dick and showing off and this and that. For rich people, if they can afford it 10 times over and they're actually into cars, then they buy cars. If they're into watches, they buy watches. Whatever it is that actually makes them happy, but they do it for themselves. And they don't do it in a way that screams to the entire world. So guys, please remember that if you can't buy it 10 times over in cash, you can't afford it. The next thing that rich people do that poor people don't is rich people observe, learn, and move in silence most of the time. Poor people think they know it all and they want to scream their opinion at the top of their lungs. You know, I've noticed this to be huge, especially rich people. Like they move in silence. Now that doesn't mean they're private. For example, I'm not private because I literally have a YouTube channel all about sharing what's working for me in my life financially, at the agency, at my clothing line, in terms of giving you updates on Nepal, like just, you know, I'm a totally open book, but I've just found that rich people, that doesn't mean that they're secretive or they're private or they'll hide everything. It just means that they spend more time doing it rather than talking about it. Look, we all know that one person who puts on Instagram big things coming, but they never actually do it. We all know those people who get more validation and more fulfillment from posting about doing it and living sort of this fake lifestyle than actually just doing it. And if they ever post about something, they're not posting about, it's not them showing off, it's just their life because they work to get there. You know, as I said, I chuckle a lot when people are like, watch this space, big things coming. As I said, you know, if someone asks you a relevant question about what's going on in your life or is intrigued, you don't need to be private or secretive. It just means that spend much, much more time doing the thing rather than talking about doing the thing. Aside from that, rich people aren't usually married to their opinions. They can change because they're constantly learning, they're getting different perspectives, they're getting opposing perspectives, and as I said, they're willing to change their opinion if need be. Poor people, from what I've noticed, are kind of just a bull in a china shop. They want to shove their opinion down your throat and they think they're right all the time. Now, please keep in mind that this is 100% a generalization, and when I'm talking about rich people, I'm talking about self-made rich people. You know, this definitely doesn't apply as much to people who come from money. Coming from someone who is new money but surrounded by a lot of old money, I can tell you that old money are, just to be very honest, most of the time insufferable. Sometimes they're the most stuck in their ways and the most formally educated but so uneducated about what's going on in the world. So please keep that in mind, that a lot of the stuff in here are generalizations. So that was point number 3. Rich people observe, learn, and move in silence. Point number 4 that rich people do that poor people don't is that we realize what we do outside of our career is just as important as what we do inside of it. This is huge. Honestly, this is so important. You see, poor people will think that, you know, what does getting good sleep and having good nutrition, meditating and learning about philosophy and character, like what does all this stuff have to do with making money or being rich? But rich people understand that that's 70% of the equation. You need to understand that tactics aren't too hard to figure out. You know, most tactics aren't really a secret. Why can two people both have these step-by-step training, both know the same tactics, yet they get vastly different results? It's because of everything they do outside of the business or the career or whatever financial vehicle they're in. They understand that, going back to the first point, they're paid on results, not time. And in order to get better results, they need more energy. You need to understand that energy is the most valuable currency on earth. Or maybe not the most valuable currency on earth, but to yourself, it should be your most valuable currency. In my opinion, more so than time and more so than physical money. And you directly control how much energy you have by the quality of your sleep, what you let into your body and what you let into your mind. You see, rich people, or at least people who are truly rich, and I mean that in bank account, in spirit, in mind, in body, they understand that the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So they don't look at someone talking about the importance of sleep or nutrition or self-perception and self-identity and go, what the hell does that have to do with making money? They understand that the two are directly correlated. And that concludes my 4 points. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comments section if there's anything else that you would add that rich people do that poor people don't. And by the way, at the beginning, I think I mixed up a couple times the order of that. But in your belief, what are some things that rich people do that poor people don't that get them to that point? Now, moving on to the Gadget giveaway. Down in the description, you will find the winner for last video's Gadget giveaway. If you want to be drawn into winning an article of clothing from my boutique line, Gadget, and my team will go ahead and send it out to you free of charge. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed, turn on post notifications, and comment within the first 2 hours of next video going live. Or if you're here within the first 2 hours of this video going live, just leave a comment and you'll be drawn in to win. And all you have to do is just watch next video to see if you've won. As I said, I'm gonna go ahead and leave last video's winner down in the description. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I look forward to looking at all your comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.